In this presentation video to my thesis, I will talk about Latin America, the countries that make it up, their history, their people, and the problems and contradictions that often unite these territories. Latin America is that part of the world that includes Central and South America. It is composed of 24 nations, but I will delve into the recent and history of some of them, like Brazil, Chile, Argentina, Colombia, Venezuela, Bolivia, Ecuador, Paraguay, Cuba, and Guatemala. The history of this territory has been deeply marked by the Cuban Revolution. Fidel Castro and Ernesto Che Guevara in 1959 subverted the dictatorship of Batista, proclaiming the first socialist republic of Latin America. The first attempt to attack the Moncada barracks to steal the weapon present in the structure went wrong and Fidel Castro was arrested. In 1956, the expedition headed by Castro and Che Guevara landed again on the coast of the island through the fishing boat Granma. The second attempt also did not go well. The few survivors had to take refuge in the peaks of the Sierra Maestra. Here they began to recruit the peasants who lived on the mountain. Fighting on rough terrain and the desertion of many soldiers put the Batista army in trouble, and it soon capitulated. Fulgencio Batista was forced to flee and take refuge in Spain. On January 1, 1959, the rebels entered Havana triumphant. Cuba was finally free and the revolution was complete. Several revolutions have taken place throughout Latin America over the years. Jacobo Arben Guzman was the first democratically elected president of Guatemala in 1951, after years of military dictatorship. A coup d'etat organized by the CIA in 1954 effectively ousted the Guzman as president of Guatemala. The longest dictatorship in all South America was that of Alfredo Stroessner in Paraguay, which lasted 35 years. In 1989, he was ousted by his own father-in-law, who forced the last Supremo into exile in Brazil. In Colombia, the blackest day in their history is remembered as Bogotazo. On April 9, 1948, the Colombian President Gaetan will be assassinated in the street, triggering a revolt that will lead about 3,000 victims and a city destroyed. Another head of state inconvenient to the United States was Salvador Allende in Chile. The Chilean leader was an uncomfortable figure for the United States, which engineered a coup d'etat with the direction of the CIA to remove the head of state and replace him with General Augusto Pinochet. In the present day, the situation has unfortunately not changed much, with countries still in revolt. In fact, there are numerous protests in Ecuador, Chile, and Bolivia. The protests in these countries are the whiff of a population that can't take anymore, that is tired of having to pay the blame for economic mismanagement and rampant corruption among political circles. People take to the street to protest especially for the extreme poverty in which they live, families who lack even food, water, and house. To aggravate this situation, there are tax reforms that do not help the population at all. The straw that broke the camel's back was the increase in the cost of gasoline and subway fares, costs that directly affected the poorest people who use the car and the subway as a means of transport. A different discourse in the South American politics deserves Jair Bolsonaro, the president of Brazil. Bolsonaro, with his conservative and populist ideas, is establishing himself as a real dictator in Brazil. Thanks to his ideas, Brazil has become very close to the United States of Donald Trump, a great friend of Bolsonaro. In the country, however, many protests are breaking out with the population taking to the street to protest Bolsonaro policies and especially his poor handling of the pandemic. In the beginning of my thesis, I discussed the so-called Venezuelan paradox. Venezuela is the nation with the largest recognized oil reserve in the world, about 300 billion barrels. Yet the population is experiencing a real humanitarian crisis, lacking basic goods, water, and electricity. Supermarkets are taken by the storm, and shelves appear completely empty. Many of Venezuela's current problems date back to the mismanagement of Hugo Chavez. The leader Maximo ruled from 1998 to 2013. His biggest fault was that misused the money made from the sales of oil and based his entire policies on crude oil revenues. The baton of Hugo Chavez in 2013 passed to Nicolas Maduro after the death of the leader Maximo. Maduro is a Chavez loyalist and has based his policies on idolizing the late leader. It is still the legitimate president of Venezuela, having overwhelmingly won election in 2014 and 2018. Many claim that the current president rigged the election, effectively eliminating all parties and running for office solo. All of this has naturally sparked the ire of the population, who had taken to the streets of Caracas, demanding Maduro's head and free election. To the already bad situation in which the population is living, forced to live skyrocketing inflation and a total lack of basic goods, we had this political dictatorship in which free and democratic elections are rigged. The hope of Venezuelan people is all on Juan Guaido, the young president of the National Assembly, who has proclaimed himself president of Venezuela, removing the illegitimate Maduro. In front of a cheering crowd, Guaido was sworn in as interim president of the republic. Immediately, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has tweeted supporting the young president. He was joined by many nations around the world and almost all the countries of Europe. The situation today is still not very clear. Venezuela finds itself with two self-elected presidents, and neither has legitimate or legislative power in the country. Who in the end suffer in the most in this situation is always the poor people. Those who manage to escape this situation flee to neighboring countries like Colombia and Brazil. The luckiest one manage to escape to the United States or Europe. Everyone's hope is that we can return to normality soon, because it's the young people who lose at the most. If they remain there, there will be no future for them. The hope is just that, to find peace and serenity to give again a future to the new generations of Venezuelan people.